My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat is a Canadian initiative with a unique impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we're also live stream or chit chat here. So do take the opportunity to share our page. We ask you to stay with us if you like to learn a thing or two. However, if you're looking for an opportunity to vent out any sort of negativity, this is not for you. Tonight, we have the multi-talented individual here, Dinesh Hansraj, joining us. If you need a minute or two to do anything on your end there, that is totally fine. But do know that we welcome you and we are looking forward to get to know you a little bit more as an individual and a person who is very much passionate about music. So welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me here to talk about music.
All right, fantastic. So we'll take every opportunity to get into it. So before we talk about, your love for music, how you get started and all of those pieces, take a minute or two and introduce yourself to us. Let us know a little bit about you.
For sure. So, obviously, my name is Dinesh Hansraj. I'm actually born in Guyana, Georgetown, Guyana, and we migrated to Canada in the year 2001, and I've been here since. I recently went to finish school, and it was for a paralegal program. But unfortunately, I just finished that during the pandemic, so I haven't really been able to do much with that. Um, but I mean, that's about it.
All right. Fantastic. So thank you so much for that introduction. Very much appreciated. So I mean, we are going to get right into it. You are very much passionate about with what you do. There's no question about that. So tell us, how you got started. What motivated you, to get started with this whole musical piece? I'm talking about
Uh,
the tabla and so forth, obviously.
yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, I was actually born into music. My parents both are musicians, and naturally, uh, them being involved in music, and I'm Hindu, so my parents were always involved in puja, satsang, mandirs, and from a very young age, they used to take me with them. So, through my parents is really how I got into music initially.
Fantastic. And what is it that you like the most about it?
I mean, there's so many different aspects to that. It's difficult to really narrow it
Mhm,
down. I mean, if you're thinking about, like, if you're talking about the social aspect of music,
mhm.
I really enjoy doing music with friends. Um, when it comes to the more, I guess, culture side of things, I enjoy music uh, just because anytime you feel stress, music is something I can always turn to kind of help me get over those problems and kind of stress or anything I'm feeling like that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You mentioned a little bit about, you came from a musical background, parents and whatnot. But is there anybody in particular who actually inspired you, to kind of continue on to get into it in such of a way that you have? Because obviously, I personally know a lot of people, they grow up at the Manders and things of that kind, but never really do anything more than that. Just like regular devotee and whatnot, which is okay too, but you've kind of gone a little bit far, and I really admire what you've done. So was there anybody who kind of, mold you behind the scene kind of thing, if you know what I mean?
For sure. And I 100% I understand where you're coming from. So as I did mention, yes, my parents really were the reason I got into music initially.
Mhm.
Um, and I was fortunate enough to actually be involved in like a lot of mandirs growing up, but particularly Bhawani Shankar Mandir. I was very, very close with the Pandit of that mandir, who, although he's a Pandit, he's also a lover of music. So conversations weren't always just about Mondays per se, but they were more. So there was about music, and naturally, I ended up making some friends through those same temples, who just like me, took music so much further than just going to Mandir or going to Puja Satsang. But quite recently, I honestly have to give credit to my current Guruji, my teacher. His name is Pandit Nishikant Bordekar, and he's actually a senior disciple of one of the tabla legends, Abaji or Ustad Al Rakha. So after a series of events, I was actually very very fortunate to begin learning from him, and he really opened up my eyes and my mind to what music is past bhajans and kirtans and even just like chutney music. He really kind of expanded my knowledge on what music is and what it can be. So I would have to say definitely 100% him.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And there's a reason why we are doing this show, by the way. We're not doing it for the sake of entertainment wise. We have enough entertainment going on all over the place.
Of course, yeah.
We're doing it for, a better purpose than entertainment, right? And so the fact that you took the time to share that, that unique piece, I think is a beautiful thing. I hope that person is watching. And to those of you who are watching and listening, do know that we appreciate you, particularly to the people who are probably tuning into us for the very first time to support our guests here. It's not uncommon, by the way, when we have guests, their supporters will tune in specifically to support them, and I think that's a beautiful thing, because it's always nice to have support, along kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that. And keep in mind that there are a few different ways to listen to us, by the way. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we're doing the live stream here. So if you have friends and so on who you think might be interested to get to know more of Dinesh, do send in the link and so on, because I get it, that people probably are a little bit confused as to how they can watch it, listen it, and so on. And so do take the time to send it to friends and whatnot, so that they can get to know Dinesh more. But obviously, they can watch it after as well too. So obviously, Dinesh, there are lots of opportunities out there where you can, go and perform with different people and so forth. If you were to have an opportunity to open up, let's say, a show, cultural show. Let's keep it cultural for now. We put the chutney thing aside for now. So let's say you have an opportunity to perform, at a unique, kind of a cultural show, that is family oriented. Who is it that you would like to partner, or who you like to, who you like to, partner with to kind of perform on the same kind of platform, the same stage?
Well, honestly, apart from my regular friends that I enjoy doing music with, if we're talking about somebody that I haven't been able to do that with yet, that I would like to, from a cultural aspect, 100% Anup Jalota. So he, I'm pretty sure most people know him as a bhajan singer. I personally grew up listening to him rather. My parents are always playing his bhajans and stuff. If we drive somewhere, even if we're just hanging out at home, his music is always on. And his style of singing is something is a big part of, why I started enjoying tabla in the first place. So if there is somebody I could, share a platform with, 100%, it would be fun to play for Anup Jalota.
And I think it's very possible. He came to Canada many, many times.
Actually, yes. One time through Bhavani Shankar, he came, and I was actually fortunate to not play tabla for him, but the opening item, I was playing tabla for while he was sitting right there, which I think was, an amazing experience. But still, I would really like to play for him. It would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So speaking of fun, with what you do, music that is, and so let me feature a very short clip here, so that people who probably haven't seen you in a while, can have an opportunity to kind of listen to this right now, as we are going to feature it right now, so they can have a quick. I'm just grabbing it here as I see it. So let me feature this very quickly so that people can enjoy it. Okay. And then we'll talk about that as well too. It's a very nice, unique piece, by the way.
Thank you.
जिसका मुझे
Nicely done there, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, what was it like to watch it back?
It's always a little bit weird, I think, for any performer. It's always a little bit weird to watch yourself back. It's very rare that I can enjoy listening back to my own little pieces because I'm always finding like, oh, I could have done this, oh, I should have done that. But I think that's just natural for anybody who does music, really.
Yeah. Nicely done. I'll share this quick joke with you. And that joke is a true story. Many years ago, I went to the flea market in Brampton there, and I bought myself a drum. I'm not a I cannot play it or anything, but I just bought it, and I was trying to practice the plates. And at that time was I was living in a chung house, and I was hitting that thing, and the neighbor was knocking on that. They were knocking on the wall, like, what are you doing over here?
Yeah,
Maybe if we had somebody like you playing it so nice, maybe they would have not done that.
I don't know about that, but
All right. So thank you so much. For those of you watching, we are joined by Dinesh Hansraj, a very, very talented musician. He's very much passionate about what he does. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why we have decided to kind of invite him on the show, just to kind of get to know him a little bit more as a person so that he can share his passion. And we are hoping by the end of it all here, we are hoping that people can pick up one or two pieces, that will motivate them to actually, do something with their lives, whether that be, have a passion for music or have a passion for something. Because in life, if you're living and you don't have a passion for anything, life is going to be a very boring thing. I can tell you that. So you want to make sure you choose something that you like and kind of make the most out of it. And you're definitely doing that. That's for sure. To the
thank you.
viewers and listeners, while we are at it, I want to, I should share with you as well, too, that this coming Saturday, that's May the 22nd, we do have, for the very first time, we have the Guyana's Diaspora Music Monarch. And you are going to be able to watch it right here on this page here. We're doing this to commemorate Guyana's independence. And so this is not a popularity contest. This is not a like and share kind of event. So we have 6 criteria where we will be judging people based on their voice and nothing else. It will be a very unique event to watch, but also we are creating opportunities for people so that they can take things to the next level. We are not doing it for any other reason. This is not a fundraising. We're not asking anybody for money or anything of that kind. We are doing this as a way to kind of give back to the people who probably can benefit from it. So let's get back to Dinesh now. So Dinesh, how are you feeling so far, by the way?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. How about
All
you?
right, good, good. I have to tell you that you are one of the few people who actually, have been so committed of wanting to be here. When I, invited you to be here, you were very consistent to make sure that we are on the same page. And I'm sharing this because I've had people reach out to me and ask me, Naraine, what time are we, on, that doesn't
Yes.
speak highly when people, say things like that, when we already make an agreement and all of that, right? So I really commend you for that. You did really, really well. You are a reliable kind of individual. I can tell you that for sure.
Thank you.
And I know that anything with you, we need supporters. People have to support you because it can be very challenging if you're trying to do something and not having support from people, whether that be family, friends, the people in the community or the mandar and so on. What is it that you would like to say to the people who have supported you so far doing what you do?
Luckily for me, and it's really a blessing that I've been fortunate enough to get actually a lot of support from not just the West Indian community, but all communities. And I guess the only thing I really can say is thank you. At the end of the day, I strongly believe that if it wasn't for my group of friends, if it was not for the people who gave me opportunities to play in their shows and their mandirs, honestly, the interest would have been very, very difficult to keep, especially as when I was a younger person. So I have to give credit where it's due, and honestly, the most that I have to give credit for is my parents, because even when the manders, when people were not giving those opportunities, my parents were always there, like, no, come, let's go to this puja, bring your tabla. No, I'm taking you to classes. Doesn't matter how tired you are. you have to go. So I mean, the only thing I can really say to those people who kind of supported me and gave me all those opportunities is thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for saying thank you, by the way, because no, none of us, and we might not realize it. And there are times when we, as individual, because of our ego and so on, we may not want to accept certain things in life. But none of us can really, move on to the next level if we don't have support from people, around us. That's the bottom line. It's
Yeah.
extremely difficult to do things on our own. There are certain things we can do. There's some people are more motivated and so on. But at the end of the day, people have to kind of help us and assist us to kind of take things to the next level. So for those of you who assisted, this young gentleman, as you mentioned earlier, do know that we recognize that, we appreciate that, and that is a beautiful thing. So thank you. All right. And so, and we appreciate you being here too, by the way, just so you know that. We know that you are very talented in what you do. And keep in mind, our show is a freestyle. You're not obligated to answer, any or all the questions that we ask you here. But my next question too is that, do you have any useless talent? And it's not a bad thing. Meaning that talent. Think about what I'm saying here. Meaning useless talent. Meaning that a talent that you have, but you're not using it. That so not that it's a bad thing, right? So think about it. If no, it could be cooking. It could be something like that. That you're a really good chef, but you're not doing anything with it, or you're a good writer, for example. You're not doing anything with it. Just like if people have a lawnmower, a lot of people will say, man, I have this lawnmower, this brand new lawnmower buy, or I have this snow blower, I bought it for $2,500, but they're not using it, right? So it becomes useless. That's the idea.
Okay. Okay. I understand. I understand now. Okay. Well, I'll tell you for sure. I can't cook. Let's just put that out there. I can't cook. That's for sure. But a talent that I have that I don't use, I would have to say is art, meaning like actually like drawing and stuff like that. Back when I was in middle school, I actually, they would have like little competitions within the school. And the last one I was in, I believe, was in grade nine. And I actually won like first place in those competitions for literally just some artwork I did. I used to enjoy that quite a bit, but somewhere within high school, I just fell off. But I would like to think that that used to be one of my talents that I just never did anything with.
All right. You still have time anyways. You never know. It probably can come in handy again because visual arts, a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of the times, social workers and, therapists and so on, they use it as a form of, therapy, to
Mhm.
kind of get people back on track or kind of get their mind off of things. So you probably have something unique there that you want to look into. We'll
Maybe in
talk
the
more about
future.
next time. You never know, right? Maybe you'll
Maybe,
do
yeah.
you'll do one of these flowery shirt that I have on, something
Maybe.
Maybe. All right, awesome. And so, where have you performed? You did mention about performing at the Mandares and places like that kind, but have you performed elsewhere? You also mentioned very briefly about performing, I think, beside or same stage or something along that line with Anup Jorota. Have you performed at places, unique places that where you would like to kind of go back again while the pandemic is over?
Well, I had the awesome opportunity of performing once in India. I went there to study a little bit of music, and my Guruji had given me the opportunity to perform a tabla solo at a university there. So 100%, I think that would be something I would absolutely love to do again. Otherwise, Guyana, actually, I performed quite a few places in Guyana, Essequibo, Laguan, Bartica, but I mean, and the Edwards Village in Berbice. But those were through, so the Edwards trip that was with Pandit Hardat with Bhavani Shankar. And all the other places that I mentioned that I visited in Guyana was actually through um, Pandit Dhanraj from Guyana. I think he goes by another name, but I just know his family with the last name Dhanraj. So once in a while, they would bring me there for yajnas and little programs. But other than Guyana and Canada, uh, I've never been to the States, but that was kind of the plan. Me and some friends were supposed to go perform in the States last year, but then COVID kind of ruined our plans.
Mhm. All right, no, that's fair. All right, thank you for sharing that. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who have just tuned in, we are joined by a very talented individual, Dinesh Hansraj, a talent out of Toronto, that is. Keep in mind, there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers, a digital cable, for those of you who have the digital box on channel 946. And of course, we're also live streaming the Chit Chat here. So take the opportunity to share a page. You mentioned about you born and raised in Georgetown, Guyana. How about Berbice? Have you ever visited Berbice? I'm from Berbice, by the way.
Oh, okay, okay. So I was born in Georgetown,
Mhm,
but we're from Cummings Lodge,
mhm.
and my parents are from Cummings Lodge in industry. But I came here when I was 7, so I wouldn't really say I was raised there,
Oh, okay. Mhm,
because I came when I was very young. And but I have visited Berbice once. It's when I went to the Edwards village. One of my uncles is actually from there, but I had gone to there to play tabla for Mandir was opening there, and they had like a yajna and a program.
mhm.
Um, but I mean, I was only there for a few days, so I didn't really get to explore too much of Berbice.
I am just asking for curiosity. That's fine. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna feature another clip. At the end of it, though, you will have to mention the name of the other two people that are in it. We want to give them credit, of course.
For
You
sure.
know who they are, and so we want to make sure we acknowledge them as well too. So
Okay.
let's take this opportunity to feature this beautiful clip, so that way people can enjoy.
Awesome.
आवत जाती जी आवत जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला आवत जाती जी आवत जाए आवत जाती जी आवत जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला आवी जाए भवला
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Very nicely done there. Very nice job there. So let's acknowledge. I know one person is Ravin Samaru. Who is the other fella?
So the datal player is actually one of my students. He plays tabla, dholak, he sings as well. His name is Tyler Ramatar.
Okay, thank you for acknowledging him. We want to make sure we give everybody credit here, of
Of
course.
course.
For those of you who have joined us, obviously we're joined by a very talented individual, and we are taking every opportunity to get to know him. And to those of you who probably, tuning in for the first time specifically to support our guests, thank you. That is a beautiful thing because they will always need continuous support because nobody really can do anything on their own, and it's always a motivating thing knowing that you have people supporting what you do. So that's awesome. So I know this is a crazy question here because of the pandemic situation, but do you have anything going on, anything coming up, whether that be virtually or, following the guideline kind of thing, as they say?
Honestly, unfortunately, nothing planned at the moment.
Mhm.
Again, because of COVID, but hopefully, hopefully soon.
So do you play apart from the tabla and so on? Like, do you play any other instrument like the harmonium or anything of that kind?
I mean, I can play a little bit of harmonium.
Mhm.
I fiddle around with other instruments like other drums and these things. But I'm not really trained in them. But I mean, if I go to a puja and there's nobody to play harmonium, I could probably I could probably play some.
I know that's no, and that's a beautiful thing. Absolutely, absolutely. Good,
Yeah.
good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. And you may have already answered this question, but in different ways. But I'm going to ask you specifically because there might be different people. Because I
Mhm.
talk about who you would like to play with if you have if you have that opportunity. But I have a question along that line. So my next question for you is that which famous musician do you admire? Is it the same Anab Jalota person or is it somebody else?
Um, I mean, of course, I admire Anil Jalota, but I think currently I guess, celebrity musician I'd have to say that really has my attention is a classical singer. Her name is Koshiki Chakrabarti. She's a trained Indian classical singer, but she sings bhajans and these things as well. But see, right now, where I am in music, because I'm still learning as
Mhm.
well, and but my focus really has shifted away from light music, more so to traditional um, like solo tabla playing,
Mhm.
accompaniment for
Mhm.
like sitars and things like that. So I think with that shift, kind of the people I listen to and the type of music that I enjoy really kind of shifted as well. So I mean, Anup Jalota is obviously somebody that I think I would have fun playing for.
Mhm.
But somebody that I've admired quite a little while now is Kaushiki Chakraborty.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And keep in mind, this is more of getting to know you as an individual. I know,
Mhm.
you're there doing your thing, you're doing what you love, but sometimes it is extremely important for us to pause a little bit and kind of doing exactly what you're doing here. Because keep in mind, you might not realize it, but whatever little you're sharing here might motivate somebody else to kind of really do something with their life. Maybe somebody has the passion of wanting to get, to do music. I talk to as a social worker that I do professionally. I talk to people all the time, and there are many people who really they have passion for music, but don't know how to get started. Don't, never maybe have the opportunity. In fact, one of the individuals who I will be featuring at some point in this show here, he actually knows how to play the drum and so on, but he learned from a bucket, the bucket that you carry water with. He learned from the hitting that bucket. And so not
Mhm.
everybody has these kinds of opportunities. And so whatever you share here will be very, very fruitful to people, so do know that. So let me take a little bit of an opportunity here where you can draw your breath, maybe you can sip some water or whatnot,
Mhm.
and say hello to a few people. I know my audience, and I know some people are tuning in for the first time, though we've been doing this show for a long time. It is an award-winning show, by the way. But the fact that people tune in to support you, that is a beautiful thing. Let me say hello to Anand Siram. I'm going by the
Mhm.
name that I'm seeing on here. And keep in mind, based on the screen I'm looking at, I wouldn't be able to see all the names, but do know we always appreciate you guys, so always know that. I don't like this mentioning his name thing, but you guys got my point. But I definitely have to acknowledge a few people. Shirley, we do know that we appreciate you. Sandra, Indira, um, Nandram. I'm going with the last name because it's a little bit easier for me to pronounce that down, but do know we appreciate all of you. I want to give a special hello to Prince Ali as well, who we've had in this show here. He lives in Toronto as well. Right now, he's in Guyana. He mentioned that openly, so I'm okay to share that. He's very much passionate about music as well too. And and when you have a passion for something, you go that extra mile. There's no question about that. And that's no different. Sabo as well too, and all of you guys do know that. And to the people who I cannot see, or radio people, the song FM people, the Rogers cable people, do know we appreciate all of you. So let's get back to you now, though. I have a few more questions for you, of course, before we got before we wrap things up. Our keep in mind, our question is usually to get to know you as a person, so do not take our questions personally. We freestyle kind of thing, right? And you can always pass. But have you ever had any I guess I'll put it this way: have you had any trouble growing up in life, kind of thing? Like, were you a trouble kid at all, or were you just being a normal kind of individual?
Um, that's a loaded question. So, I mean, I think everybody has had their fair share of challenges. Um, but I really can't say that I'd like, I mean, yes, I've had my ups and downs,
Mhm.
but that's part of life. I don't think it's out of the ordinary. I don't think it's anything unique. The only way I see it is that um, I was very, very fortunate to be given a lot of blessings and a lot of lessons. So, when I was really down, that was one of the things somebody told me, try to see the blessing in everything, try to see the lessons in everything. And that's the way I try to look at things. Although sometimes, I mean, obviously it's a lot harder
Mhm.
to do, right? When you kind of take a minute, step back from any kind of situation, that's that's my approach to it. So, I mean, I honestly don't think that I was a very troubled kid. My parents were absolutely awesome in, supporting me in music when I wanted to start teaching tabla. Although it was very, very tough because I started at a younger age, I had all the support I needed from my friends, my families, and the Mandir. Actually, that's where I started. So, I mean, now I don't really have that kind of like problems, I would say, but I've just been very fortunate, I guess.
Oh no, and that's totally fine. I, do not share things that you're not comfortable share. I'm sharing here, by the way. So, like I said, it's freestyle. You're not obligated. We're just getting, we're just trying to get to know you. And even if you were a trouble kid, that doesn't necessarily mean, that doesn't mean anything, right? And so, because in life, not everybody. You keep saying constantly that you've had, good role models. You mentioned your parents them so many times and so on, which is a beautiful thing. We also live in a world where not everybody has those kinds of privileges, right? And so I
Exactly.
see it all the time. I work as a social worker. A lot of people right here in Canada, though it is a modernized country, a lot of people still living on the streets and things of that kind. So
Of
thank you for sharing
course.
that. Speaking of that, though, what will be the most, I guess the wisest advice, so to speak, you've gotten growing up? Because usually mentoring and getting those kinds of good advice can really allow you to grow professionally as a person. So what will be one or two things that really stood out for you that you can really say, what, because of those words, because of those things that was said to me, really make me a better person today?
For sure. I mean, I can't really pinpoint one, but there are definitely two or three that just, are always in my head. One thing is definitely, and it's applicable to many different situations, is somebody once told me, if you're in any kind of problems, like, don't worry, just keep telling yourself this moment will pass, another day will come. And when if it was getting in trouble at school, getting in trouble at home, and sometimes just, you can't sleep because you're just thinking of everything that happened during the day. That's kind of one thing that kind of helped me get through some things, was just telling myself, you know what, yeah, this situation is rough, but the moment will pass. That was one of those things that really helped me get through certain things. Musically, and this one here is a little bit it's a little bit. It depends on perspective. It was actually from my Guruji. Being a young musician, again, I keep saying that I was lucky to have many great opportunities and many great friends. One thing that's bound to happen, I find, is for people to develop an ego, especially when it comes to music, and especially when you start to get a little bit of recognition for that. And I'm not going to say that that hadn't happened to me. It has, right? And one thing that my Guruji told me, one day we were sitting and we were practicing, and he was teaching me something. And I think I was super tired in that day. And he was teaching me this thing. And when he started teaching me, I got really excited all of a sudden. Because it sounds nice. I recognized it from somebody else playing it. So I started playing it very fast. So this is one story I always tell my students. So he said, Dinesh, just slow down, take your time. You'll get there. Just slow down and do it properly. And in my head, I'm like, but this thing's easy. Let me just show him that I could do it fast so we can move on and I can go home or whatever. And he kept 2-3 times he told me, and it just wasn't clicking because I was under the impression that I had this down. Like, I'm good. I had this down. So then he said to me, okay, stop. So I said, okay. He's like, close your eyes. And I closed my eyes. And he's like, I want you to picture something for me. So I said, okay. So he said, picture a stallion, beautiful horse, right? Do you picture it? I said, yeah. He's like, picture it in a nice big field. I'm like, okay. So he's like, then he says, picture that stallion running from point A to point B. So he said, he gave me a second. He said, did you picture it? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, how does it look? Does it look good? Does it look majestic? Is it pleasant to look at? And I said, yeah, it is. Like, at least what I'm picturing in my head. And he said, okay. Now I want you to picture the same field, okay? But now I want you to picture a donkey going from point A to point B. So then I started laughing, and then he said, do you understand? I said, I understand. And the point he was trying to make was not just in like Riaz, music, but in anything that you do, you got to take your time. Because yes, you can get to point A to point B by rushing, but the journey, that's what's important. And that's something that really stuck with me. So it doesn't matter if it's school, if it's something I'm practicing. I always like to now kind of slow down, take my time, and make sure that what I'm doing looks good, sounds good, and needs to be what it needs to be. So I think those two advices are kind of the things that really helped me get to wherever I am today.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing with us. Very much appreciated. My dear fellow listeners, for those of you who have just tuned in, you are listening to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. We are joined by a very talented individual, Dinesh Hansraj, a talent out of Toronto. And we are so glad that he took the time to join us here today. We are taking every opportunity to get to know him. I want to remind you again that this coming Saturday, May 22nd, we have an interesting show. It is the competition here. It is a competition. First time we're doing competition because we never believe in competition, but we realize that there is an opportunity for improvement and an opportunity for people to grow, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this event to commemorate the Guyana independence. And this show we're calling it the Guyana's Diaspora Music Monarch. And so what that means that this contest was open to any Guyanese living in the USA and in Canada. So we will be crowning a few individual this coming Saturday. Their life will be changing forever, by the way, because we're going to give them all the opportunities they need to take things to the next level. So we do encourage you, if you have time, to tune in. We are not raising fund for any organization. We are not asking money from anybody. We have good people behind this to really give back to the artists. And so that's the only reason why we're doing this. So we encourage you to take the time to join us this coming Saturday, right on the same very page here. So we are going to start at 7 o'clock. But to get everybody feel settled in, we will be starting a few minutes early, so that way people have enough time to share page and so forth. All right, so enough for that. So obviously, Dinesh, in this musical industry, I've been in it for a long time. This is not what I do for a living or anything of that kind. I actually enjoy it. I grew up, in Mandirs, and as I was telling you before we started, I was an assistant pandit and so on at the number 6 for Krishna Mandir, in Burmese Guyana. So I understand Mandirs, I understand music, I understand all of these things, and that's one of the reasons I've kind of kept connected and stayed close to it, in as much as I can, so to speak. However, having said all of that, there are challenges when it comes to this musical industry. There's no question about that. The world has changed. We live in a fast-paced world. Everybody wants to be better than each other and all of that. That's the reality, whether or not if you want to accept it. What are some of the challenges, without you mentioning anybody's name and any organization's name? What can you say generally to us? What are some of the challenges you've seen in this musical industry?
Uh, there are many, but I'll try to, kind of narrow them down. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges and I could speak from West Indian community because that's where I've had most of my experience, is a lack of understanding, basically, meaning that from a musician perspective, sometimes you spend hours and, you spend years really, and lots of money, lots of time dedicated to your practice. And one of the biggest challenges is when you're one of those musicians that really just, go all in, and, there's just a lack of appreciation for that, and it's not so much because it's not always intentionally done. See, it's just sometimes a lack of understanding, because some people just are not exposed to, or were not brought up, or learning about certain things. So when it's presented there in front of them, they really can't tell what's good and what's bad, because they all kind of see the same. Oh, okay, that's a tabla player. Okay, he's gonna play tabla, right? They're not saying, okay, well, this guy's a guy who trained for 14, 15 years and is doing this and that, right? And that's not just for tabla players. Like, I see it all the time with singers. Lots of times me and my friends, we might go somewhere to perform, and one of the biggest challenges is that sometimes you sit to do a presentation or a performance and there's just no focus. Even the people who are inviting you to come sing and play tabla, their focus just isn't there. I think that's a big challenge for young musicians in particular. And the second biggest challenge I'd have to say off the top of my head is a lack of opportunity. Now, there are a lot of temples that provide a lot of opportunities for youths, but the problem is that they have a core group of youths, and that's it, right? And it's like, if somebody can afford a ride to the mandir or a ride to a satsang, or to be in a certain social group, their music is basically just kind of left to the side, because they don't get opportunities to bring that forth. Now, like I said, I've been a part of a lot of mandirs that do give those opportunities, but there are so many temples in the GTA alone, and unfortunately, not all of them are as welcoming as some. So I think those two are the real challenges for young musicians today.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for sharing that with us. Very much appreciated. You mentioned something very interesting. And I want to remind viewers and listeners here that our purpose of this show is to try to close the gap, try to address things when we're seeing it, and actually do things about it. That's one of the reasons why we're doing the show this Saturday. It was never our intention, but we want to provide opportunities to people. But you brought up something very interesting. When it comes to mandir, right? A mandir is a public thing, right? And so welcoming. And that could be, you also brought up something interesting. It could be people are doing it not knowingly, right? It could be their level of knowledge, their level of understanding of things, the way they probably were doing things in the past, things of that nature, right? And so, and stuff like that kind. But when it comes to mandir, anything like that, It has to be freely open. It has to be welcoming. If you and I take the responsibility to run a mandir, and I get it, I understand it, that running a mandir is not an easy thing. And for the people who are doing it, good for you guys. We get it that a lot of time are people putting in there. But when people are running mandirs and so on, you have to make sure that you have another obligation too. When people come in a mandir, if you don't know who they are, you have to get to know them. Do not
Yes.
see them as a threat, right? Do not
Yes.
see anything as a competition, and that is a problem. And so, you have to be conscious of these things. Very conscious, very important. Because if I go somewhere and if I don't feel welcome, I will not go back there again.
Yep.
And with this pandemic, it goes to show that God makes every home a temple to begin with. And so, so we have to think about all of these things, you know. But
Mhm.
anyways, that's a whole different topic. If you want to talk, for those of you who are watching or listening, I want to talk more about this topic along this line. We'll be happy to hear from you. Very recently, about 3 weeks ago, we've had a fella from Trinidad, a pundit from USA. We talk about issues and reasons as to why some people don't go to the mandir. And it's not nobody's fault necessarily. People were just sharing their opinion. So we'll leave that for another day. But thanks for bringing that up. But there's no question that there are challenges when it comes to the musical piece. We get it, we understand it. And that's one of the reasons we are inviting people to come on here. And if you recognize that there are ways for we to make things better for our guests who come on the show, we will do it. We always do that. Always, always, always. Um, Anyways, for those of you who may have tuned in, halfway through, last minute, we do have last minute people too, do
Mhm.
know that we are joined by Dinesh Hansraj, very, very talented individual. We have invited him for a reason. A person like me, I always look for talent. I'm a professional career developer as well too, so I've had the opportunity to search and find engineers and plumbers and social workers and all of that. So when it comes to talent search, it's not only about the musical piece, but I do love the musical aspect of things. And when I saw Dinesh, I knew that he has uniqueness in him, and that's one of the reasons we have invited him. Obviously, we would never be able to invite everybody on this show, but we are very open to have people on here. It is not for a special type of prestige people, because we do see uniqueness in everybody. Who is it that you would like to see in this show, though? Because we will want something back from you that way in terms of recommendation. That works for us really well. I can tell you that. If you cannot think of anybody right now, do email us that. But if you have somebody or a few or a group of people that you would like to recommend to the show, we'll be happy and glad to kind of take that into consideration. So do keep that in mind. You don't have to mention anybody's name if you're not comfortable, but do know that we will like that, because there are people probably hidden here and there, that we can bring out, and they can share their own uniqueness, for sure. All right. So obviously in life we talk about challenges. There's no question that challenges exist, things like jealousy exist. These are all normal things as a human being. If you have never been jealous of anybody, you're not a human being, because all of us
Mhm.
at some point have been jealous of somebody for a variety of different reasons, um, and have had challenges too. However, despite the fact that all of us have gone through challenges in life, there are still things we can look back and be grateful for. What are some of the things you're grateful for in your life?
Well, there's actually quite a bit. I mean, I've touched on the fact that, I was very fortunate to be born into a musical family. Now, although a lot of people say they're born into music, but when I say I was literally born into music, I was literally born into music. My mom and dad were singers in Guyana. Dad used to teach kirtan and stuff at the Kamasaj Mandir. And my mom actually went into labor in the middle of a performance with me. So I was literally born into music, and that I think I'm very, very grateful for that, because without music, without my parents' support and pushing me to do this, I don't know what I'd be doing today. Um, I'm grateful for. I know this may sound like very, very simple to say, but I'm very, very grateful for some of my friends, because at a young age my parents obviously were very encouraging in music, but then I'm actually a music teacher as well. I teach tabla. So I'm speaking from experience when I say that young musicians, when they get into high school and college or university, the interest changes, especially depending on their social circle. I've seen very amazing musicians from our community just completely give it up altogether. Um, not because they had any extreme challenges, but simply because of the social circle. So one of my best friends, Ravin, he's been singing since he was a baby, basically, the guy who sang in the video. And he's a guy that I can call on anytime. Hey, let's go do some music, right? Another individual, Gauri. There's quite a few videos of us online doing music together. She's also one of those friends that anytime I just feel like doing music or need that kind of extra push. Those are the two people I can always count on to give me that extra push. So honestly, I'm very grateful for friends like that. And I'm most grateful to my teachers. I've had few teachers over the years, but regardless of the support, regardless of how much people may like me or may not like me, I don't think I would be able to do anything if it was not for my teachers, my gurujis. Currently, my guruji Pandit Nishikant Borodkar. The first person to start me in tabla was my guruji Srimati Rachna Mehra. Um, and I think I'm most grateful for them.
All right, thank you so much to share that. I want to get back very briefly, if that's okay with you, very quickly, with this challenges piece that we talked earlier. In this musical industry, what would be some of the things you would like to see change that would provide more opportunities for people like yourself and other musicians, here, there, and everywhere?
This might sound a little bit blunt. Um, I think that the older musicians, like the earlier generations, should take a step back. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, I'm not saying that they should stop doing music or anything like that. All I'm saying is that I've been to certain puja satsangs, these shows and etc. And I would sit there and I would see a group of like hardworking, talented youths, sitting there just waiting for that opportunity. And they just don't get it because some of the older, and I don't mean like older like guys, I mean even guys my age and stuff like that. Like they would see these guys and say, okay, no, like you guys can go on later or something like that. Just kind of brush them off, and that's one of the things I'd like to see change. I think the most. I personally don't play even before the pandemic. Um, Usually with my students, I would take them, a group of them, whoever is available. If I have to go to a particular program and there's, singers and stuff like that, I always try to bring them with me. And I'm like, hey man, you guys play, right? You guys are learning now. You need this opportunity. Everybody knows Dinesh Hansraj can play tabla. There's no need for me to sit and play for 2-3 hours to remind people of that. So if I do have a gig and it's not just specifically me playing for one individual and it's a satsang, I think it's very important for the younger generation of youths to get in on that because I mean, like I said, I'm speaking from a teacher point of view, and I know so many of my students who are absolutely just so talented, but because some places they go, they just don't get that opportunity. I see that kind of love for the music and that interest in the music kind of going away because then they're thinking, okay, well, every time I go here, these guys are performing. And I'm spending money every week and I'm practicing every day. But for what? Because when I go, I don't get to play. So I think that's one of the biggest things I would really like to see change. And I know there are actually a lot of people who are trying to make that change as well. But it just needs to happen more, I think.
Oh no, thank you for sharing that. This is important. This is the important stuff you're sharing here. So do know we appreciate that. Um, People need that opportunity. There's no question about that. There's a reason why we're doing a show in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Creating opportunity for people. Different people have different experience, obviously, and so anything they share here can really help to make changes. And because of people have shared certain pieces and because we have seen things ourselves too, that's one of the reasons we created opportunity, right? There's a reason why we're doing this show this coming Saturday, because we want to create opportunity. So you wouldn't see any big names, you wouldn't see anybody who has millions of views or anything of that kind of the show, because if we are doing that, we are not doing anything, we are actually contributing to the problem. And so we want to close that gap. And so the winners actually are very, very talented people. And I'm saying winners because we already know who the winners are. They will be
Okay.
announced on Saturday because we done the judging, and the judging was based on six strict criteria. Has nothing to do with background on virtual background or
Did I
dance.
win? Was I one of the winners? I'm just kidding.
Hopefully you guys people, hopefully we get more people to open up. A lot of people were afraid to enter the competition. We've gotten like lots of responses and so on, but a lot of people are accustomed to the old fashioned way where they're going to go record a studio, make it sound and look fancy, and then like and share. That is that's not how we do things, right? We see that to be an issue, and that's one of the few reasons why we are actually starting to educate people by not putting people down, but by doing the right thing so that people can hopefully follow along and do
Yeah.
things that make sense. And so I agree what you're saying, and there's a reason why people need that opportunity, right? And I'm hoping that people who are watching, if you're in position, even the politicians, by the way, keep in mind, there are other people who want to kind of get into not only music, right? So if you've been in it for 12 years, 14 years, maybe step back and give the, younger generation an opportunity, right? People need that opportunity. But if we're going to hold on really tight to everything and we're not creating space, I know it's hard to let go, by the way, when
Yeah.
you're accustomed to do certain things, certain way, you're accustomed to that center of attention. You like when your name is being called and all that. We get it. It's a human thing. But it is so nice to kind of step back. And our guest said it so nicely. Step back a little bit and give opportunity to other people. There's a reason why, though it is a Guyana's diaspora event we're doing this coming Saturday, in the past we've invited presidents and vice presidents and all of that. Not this time, because we cannot do things based on a formula. We have to be the one make those changes, and it has to be the everyday people. If not, we're not doing anything. And so, thank you. You're a very smart man, aren't you? You're not only a talented soccer player, that's for sure, because it is so true. Like, people have to step back and give opportunity to other people. I know that people like to be in a small circle, and it's always only that small circle. People are afraid to get other people involved. Because they're afraid that they're going to really, take over things and so on. But it's not a bad thing especially if it's a public thing, right? If it's a
For
public,
sure.
especially when it comes to anything to do with non-profit organization, anything to do with Mandira and so on, it's always a public thing. I always know that, right? So it's not what I want and what you want, it's what needs to be done. So I want you to know, Dinesh, that I appreciate you so very much. You actually took this whole thing, so seriously. It meant something to you coming on here, and do know that we appreciate you. We have gotten more than what we bargained for. I know that you're a talented individual in terms of the musical piece, but you're an excellent presenter as well too. And
Thank
so
you.
that's a beautiful thing, right? We all have uniqueness, and sometimes we don't realize it, because what you have just done there, I have a lot of people who I would like to have come on here, but they wouldn't be able to do what you have just done there. Keep in mind, there's a difference between go and play tabla, the mandir, and coming and speak in front of a camera. It's two
Definitely.
different things, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
In fact,
I think it froze. think we're having some technical difficulties.